Hey everyone, Ponylover1989 here, and welcome to another reaction episode. So, I know it's been a long time, you Ooey, formerly known as Something Different 765, but I'm gonna do 3 suggested reaction videos just for you. You may know that Top 10 Worst Hit Songs of 2016 made by Kuberai Fang Music, and the top 10 Worst Hit Songs of 2015 and 2017. Well, it seems you Ooey has enjoyed my reaction. Especially the final part of my reaction to top 10 worst hit songs of 2017. 2 likes and 86 views. It's almost getting close to 100. Okay. Now the first suggested reaction that you Ooey suggested me is the Flanderization of Power Rangers, a caricature of Mighty Morphin by Mint Bari. What does Ned Flanders from The Simpsons have to do with Power Rangers? Well, let's find out in 3, 2, 1, and let's begin reacting.
Homer's treasured Mr. Plowjacket
and
these Power Ranger underoos, which I'm already wearing.
I didn't have a clip that showcases the main thesis of this video essay, but Power Rangers and The Simpsons, that's the video. Flanderization, a term coined from the long-running animated show, The Simpsons. I believe it's an important term in explaining another long-running show, Power Rangers. Its meaning, to take the most basic traits of a character and inflating it to the point where it's their sole personality. Take its namesake, Ned Flanders. He started off as a well-meaning, perfect neighbor, as a foil to Homer Simpson, but instead he was Flanderized into a religious fundamentalist Bible.
We're not going to church today.
What? You give me one good reason.
It's Saturday!
Both Power Rangers and The Simpsons started out on Fox, but later run in with a certain mouse. Both shows have had an impressive longevity in the entertainment space with their pop culture influence and sheer episode count. If I'm being honest, The Simpsons has very little to do with this video, but Flanderization is an idea that's been rattling in my head every time I watch Power Rangers.
It seems I'm wearing
nothing
at all.
Yellow family,
Nothing
a
at
common
all.
sentiment is that
Nothing
newer
at
episodes
all.
of The Simpsons aren't as good as the old ones.
Hello, I'm Elon Musk.
I'm sure
Elon
Power Rangers
Musk.
fans know what that's like.
Oh, fart sounds in the Power Rangers?
Flanderization is typically a label given to characters, but something I feel also describes non-character elements of Power Rangers, even the show itself. And like The Simpsons and Power Rangers, if you want this channel to run for years to come, please consider subscribing. If this video does well, I don't know, maybe I could talk about Power Rangers and Family Guy. I touched on this a bit in the previous video about how the show is being held back, but this will be a bit more of an expansion on that.
I redecorated using the Hello Kitty expansion pack.
Hello.
Why do I think the show's
I don't think Bart likes Hello Kitty.
Mighty Morphin.
Here we go again.
Yeah, we're treading this territory again, but I want to go less into how they're structuring the show and more into why the show's been Flanderized into its outdated 90s identity. If we look back at the definition of the word that I gave, it's about inflating basic traits of a character
inflation
far beyond any other characterization they may have.
This personality is literally just gamer. One of the worst lines in the show. Oh, is
Looking at a different show, Cosmo
person
and
in
Wanda
a
from the
costume
original
look
Fairly
like
Odd Parents
E.T.?
started off as hopeless romantics
alien
before
costume?
becoming a bog-standard
Cosmo
bickering
and
couple.
Wanda?
Cosmo went from witty and loving to an idiot. Wanda was reduced to nag, nag, nag. Shout out to the new show, they kind of fixed it. But we're not talking about the individual
We're not talking about this. We're not talking about this. We're talking about this.
Just how has Power Rangers been Flanderized?
Cohen doodly
Oodly,
diddly.
oodly,
Oh.
Doodly
oodly,
Noodly doodly diddly doodly. Shut the
Oodly.
doodly doodler Ratner.
Every aspect of the show
along
since 2011
range
was
of
blatantly
Power
geared
Rangers
to replicate
franchise
Mighty Morphin. This includes the writing becoming more simple to mimic the episodic nature of the original. Explicit nods including the same Go-Go Power Rangers terminology and iconology recycled. Reusing the same character archetypes in a soulless bland rehash, such as having a comedic relief duo echoing Bulk and Skull, and mandates from above the writers' heads to keep the show more in line with Mighty Morphin. It's Power Rangers. It looks like it, feels like it, and the title of the show is still the same. But have you ever written an essay to meet the minimum word count?
And
I
some
know I
of
have.
these,
There's a
and
difference
some
between
of
making something
these.
for the sake of making it and making something because you actually care to do something with it. Power Rangers in the last few years wasn't trying to make a show with a strong story and characters that can support itself. It's trying to make a show that can check boxes and passes as Power Rangers. Now, checking boxes isn't inherently a bad thing if those boxes were things like strong character dynamics or interesting plot threads that occur throughout the season.
I'm gonna show everyone Squidward to everyone in town wearing a salmon suit
that makes the seasons that that growth happened in so beloved. But instead, these checkboxes are based off the series' first and biggest financial success, Mighty Morphin. But the important thing to go over is why, and how in some ways Flanderizing Power Rangers into its Mighty Morphin roots may be necessary. It's all about perception. Tell me, what do you think of when you see these
or
5
how
colors?
Meowth puts it,
Was your first guess Power Rangers? Well, how about if I put these characters here?
Oh,
These are a mix of Marvel and DC characters, but
Superman,
the color association
Iron
is
Man,
ingrained in your head as Power Rangers. When it comes to brand recognition, recurring elements are a great way to establish that different properties are related. If you were to boil down any season of Power Rangers, you would find the most basic elements that make up the franchise. The important thing to consider is, when the show first exploded into popularity,
this Japanese
it was
live-action
Mighty Morphin
Sentai,
not Lost Galaxy, not
warrior
Time Force,
shows
not Jungle Fury, Mighty
in Japan.
Morphin. That came with a downside. While it wrote rules for what you can expect from typical Power Rangers fare, multicolored heroes, live-action fights, and giant robot kaiju sequences, people are attached to the original. They have a bias for it. If you ask general audiences the same question I asked you, they'd simply answer with, oh, Power Rangers. And they're more than likely thinking of Mighty Morphin, but the same color sequence applies to In Space, Operation Overdrive, and Megaforce. It's just the answer with the least mental gymnastics that you'd have to go through because it's the first one that pops into your head. The public perception is only on the first iteration of the show. Most audiences do not care to distinguish the seasons because those seasons have not broken past the pop culture bubble that Mighty Morphin created. It's because of this that people in charge of the show believe they're strong-armed into catering for it. Mighty Morphin is an easy way to take advantage of a built-in audience. It brings in the crowds, but just getting them in the door isn't enough, which is where catering to Mighty Morphstalgia falls flat.
I mean, the outfits are cool and everything, but my hair gets all tangled up inside the helmets.
Oh.
I'm not so sure. The helmet does mess up my hair.
The show
The
has
helmet
grown throughout its
messes up
3 decades
the
on
female
television, but towards
protagonist's
the
hair.
end, it stunted itself by deciding to throw out that growth in exchange for cheap Mighty Morphin bait. All because the audience perceives the show as only Mighty Morphin, and that the creators themselves perceive the audience as only liking Mighty Morphin, and not wanting more from that. It's all about perception.
Is that Selma?
Because there's this perception, some may call it a belief, that the show can only be successful with Mighty Morphin,
Patty and
executives
Selma
will blindly point to it as the blueprint for success.
I've narrowed your choices down to 5 unthinkable options.
I
Oh,
pick
it's
number 3.
Number
You don't
3.
even want to read them first?
Let me actually go back on that
Is
slightly.
that
They don't
the
blindly do
one
it.
of the
It's
villains
backed up with
in the
data and
movie
merch
that is
sales. Mighty
voiced
Morphin
by
fans are simply the
Marlon's
most
voice
vocal
actor?
because there's an overwhelming amount of them. With the current state of television, shows get canceled left and right. We don't have the luxury of 30-plus episode seasons. It was a miracle Power Rangers got 20-episode seasons in the last decade, when most shows get about 12
The
to 13.
following program,
Marvel's
Drunk
even pushing it
Dinosaurs,
with 9, 6,
has
hell,
been canceled.
Echo got 5 episodes. To their credit, it's an understandable risk to take by not choosing Mighty Morphin. For as popular as the season Time Force is, it just doesn't have the same guarantee of success as the dinosaur-clad originals. We wouldn't want the show getting canceled, would we? Oh wait, I forgot the show's already off the air. Regardless, it affects how the franchise is handled in the future, if there even is a future for it. But enough of playing devil's advocate. What if I told you that you can do Mighty Morphin without making it Mighty Morphin?
The monkey bars.
Hasbro and Sabin brand.
Oh no, not again!
Oh no! Run! Run!
We're all sick of it.
Run,
Mighty
Nils.
Morphin all over again.
Run, Millhouse!
Are we really?
Run, Millhouse!
Could it
Run!
be that, as fans, we've made the association that Mighty Morphin equals poor quality? Well, if we have, It's because those running the show keep tackling it the same way instead of trying something different. Roping The Simpsons back into this, they're kind of famous for doing episodic resets of the status quo. In Power Rangers, they've devolved the show, doing a back to basics with every new incarnation. It's kind of reminiscent of that, a cheap way to recapture the magic without actually catering to the needs of a modern audience. Character writing without much substance started in Samurai, High School again in Megaforce, choosing dinosaurs, for obvious reasons, in Dino Charge, and bastardized generalizations of ninjas that have nothing to do with its Japanese origin, history, or folklore. An odd thing to repeat from the 90s in this day and age, but we'll get back to that later. There's a laundry list of things that the show's production had tried to do or emphasize in order to cater to Mighty Morphin, but they didn't have to do all this.
The scene is treated like the audience would get out of their seats and start cheering because of Mighty Morphin.
They need to go about it in a different way, and the closest we got was actually in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always, the 30th anniversary special on Netflix.
Once and
so
always.
Close, yet so far. Mind you, I thought it was
more
far
of the
from perfect. Go check out my video on it, but the potential was certainly there. Psst, spoilers, by the way, even though it's been out for a year. Once and Always, it for sure fell into the same pitfalls.
Don't spoil the episodes or the movie.
My video, but what it did well, I wished it leaned into. There were hints of a more captivating storyline,
but not to the public.
Complications brought on at the start
after you
Zach
see the
and Billy
episode or the movie.
The news of Trini's death to her daughter Min.
We have to tell her the truth, otherwise how's she gonna get closure? She's a kid. She's a kid, Billy.
This in turn leads to her understandable anger and desire to seek revenge. Expanding on that kind of dynamic, it was something that put her at odds with Billy, who tried to keep her out of it.
Look, the best thing that you can do for everyone is just to stay out of trouble and let us sort this out.
Says the guy who caused all this.
Pit the protagonists against each other in ways where both of them are justified in their actions, or at least make it so we understand where it comes from. There was a lot of shock in the fandom when the Once and Always trailer released and the characters dropped the word kill, and later on the special didn't shy away from using blatant words referring to death. The franchise usually avoids this at all costs, preferring to use the word destroy in its place. I'm pointing that out because it feels as if the writers believe that what's needed to elevate maturity is doing these small changes, using kill or having Billy impale Rita through the chest. Yet the strongest parts of the special were the aforementioned character dynamics and a sense of real consequence, except those aspects came second. Loss and grief is something Power Rangers has explored before, the sadness following death being seen when Cole finds out about his parents' untimely demise in Wild Force. Then there's anger born from grief, seen in Time Force, where Jen forms her whole motivation for traveling to the year 2001 off of her fiancé Alex's death. It even had a strong impact on the behavior of the Rangers in Lost Galaxy, acting more serious immediately following the death of Pink Ranger Kendricks.
Yeah! Not as much as it will cost you for not telling us. Ugh. Do you get my point?
We've had this kind of storytelling in non-Mighty Morphin seasons. It almost seems to add to the concept of Mighty Morphin Flanderization, mainly in that these concepts aren't exclusive to Wild Force, Time Force, and Lost Galaxy, but because this kind of writing didn't happen back in 1993, they're reluctant to take cues from it. It's like there's a fear to stray away from the 90s goofiness. There's still plenty of Mighty Morphinisms in the special, which I honestly wish they would have ditched. The reason I believe it's fear to do something else is that there's no way anyone on the show's production hasn't seen other media that treats itself with some sort of dignity. Yes, I know mandates and all that. While there's legitimate cause for concern, shaking away the identity of arguably the most recognizable first seasons of the show, there's no reason they still couldn't make a better product, Mighty Morphin or not. For a show with a very clear Japanese origin, it doesn't seem to want to commit when Japan is a big part of its theming. I'm talking about two iterations, Power Rangers Samurai and Ninja Steel, one that integrates quite a lot of Japanese elements, but without much substance. The other does what it can to suppress
just ignore the obvious Japanese designs, I guess.
This is all related to Flanderization in that times where the show can hard commit to doing something very off the wall, it fails to do so in service of making it generic Power Rangers. Power Rangers Samurai really only features the Japan-inspired theme as a consequence of following the script so closely.
Falling on your foot really does hurt.
But where it becomes generic is in the few changes it chooses to make. The characters themselves are Flanderizations of their counterparts. They made it so generic they didn't even bother casting an Asian, much less Japanese actor as the Red Ranger.
Jaden Shiba, the whitest Japanese guy.
Really, anything that's Japanese is effectively aesthetic.
You know, Shiba is a Japanese word for a dog.
Ninja Steel, on the other hand,
Or a
doesn't
breed
bother
for
with
breed
trying
of
to
dog.
fake embracing Japan. It's quite funny how they decided to do a ninja-themed season just a handful of years after Samurai, but they essentially take the aesthetic and get rid of all references to Japan. At least Samurai has the fake Japanese elements to fall back on, but if you get rid of the